I'm a 29-year-old woman living in Oregon. I work in logistics, live alone in a small townhouse, and I'm used to things going missing. Not in the where did I leave my keys kind of way, but more like this was mine, and now it isn't. The first time it happened, I was 7 years old. My birthday party was a quiet one, just a cake from the grocery store, a few classmates I barely knew, and a small stack of wrapped gifts on the kitchen table. One of them had my name on it in my grandmother's handwriting. When I tore off the paper, I found a small pink camera, the kind that came with glitter stickers and tiny rolls of film. I remember holding it up, already thinking about the pictures I wanted to take, but I never got to take a single photo. My mother, Teresa, smiled and said, "Oh, this might be better for Elise." And just like that, my younger sister walked over, peeled the sticker off, and said thanks. That was the first time it happened. It definitely wasn't the last. From then on, every gift I ever received that had any kind of value, anything with a screen, a price tag, or the potential to generate admiration, it somehow found its way into Elise's room. Christmas, birthdays, graduations. I would unwrap something, only for Teresa to swoop in, deliver a guilt-laced explanation, and reassign the gift. If it wasn't outright taken, it was borrowed indefinitely. Teresa always had a way of justifying it. "You don't use these things. Elise appreciates them more. You're not really into this kind of stuff, are you?" Elise didn't mind. She's 2 years younger than me and has always been the kind of person who thrives on attention. She's a lifestyle influencer now, posts outfits in smoothie bowls and relatable captions from a bedroom she never moved out of. She's comfortable, not because she can't leave, but because she never needed to. Teresa makes sure everything she wants is right there, just a hallway away. Our dad left when I was 10. Elise was 8. Teresa never remarried. Instead, she poured everything into Elise, emotionally, financially, physically. Elise became her shadow, her companion, her built-in audience. I was the one who cleaned the kitchen after dinner. Elise was the one who made Teresa laugh. Even after I moved out, the pattern never changed. One year, an aunt mailed me a spa gift card. It disappeared within a week. Teresa claimed she thought it was a family card. Another time, my cousin gave me an iPad for my birthday. Elise posted a selfie with it the next weekend, tagging it blessed. I tried asking about it once. I was 23. I'd come home for Thanksgiving and noticed a scarf I'd been gifted at work hanging in Elise's closet. I mentioned it casually, too casually, and Teresa told me I was being dramatic, materialistic. "It's just a scarf," she said, shaking her head like I was the one making a scene. "You always make everything about things." Over the years, the things got smaller. Candles I never lit, mugs with chipped handles, a half-used journal. My gifts got more and more generic while Elise kept getting what she wanted, sometimes literally what I wanted. And every time I said something, I was told to stop focusing on material things, that love doesn't come in a box. Last year was the tipping point. I'd saved up for months to buy myself a designer winter coat. It was the first expensive thing I'd bought for myself in years. I didn't even wear it to the Christmas Eve gathering. I wanted to keep it clean, untouched. But 2 weeks later, I saw a photo on Elise's Instagram. She was wearing the coat, my coat, standing in front of the fireplace in our mother's living room. There wasn't even a tag or caption, just a comment from Teresa underneath. "It suits her better anyway." I didn't say anything. I just unfollowed both of them. Earlier this year, a coworker gave me a thermos, personalized with my initials, heavy-duty, expensive. I kept it at work. One day, Elise came by to drop off something Teresa had sent. 2 weeks later, I found the thermos in her car cup holder when she offered me a ride. She laughed and said, "Oh, I thought this was mine." So I made a plan. This Christmas, I wasn't going to fight. I wasn't going to explain. I wasn't even going to ask for my things back. Instead, I wrapped a box. A beautiful one. I spent time on it, velvet ribbon, metallic paper, gold edge tag. It looked like a luxury gift, the kind of thing Elise loved to show off. The tag said, "To Elise, Karma," nothing else. There was nothing inside. I made sure to deliver it in person, right before dinner on Christmas Eve. Teresa's living room was lit up like a holiday commercial. Candles, lights, the fake tree she pretended was real. I walked in, set the box on the table, and said, "This one's for you." Elise beamed. She took it without hesitation, like she always had. And that was it. I sat down, passed the potatoes, and waited. I arrived at Teresa's house with 3 gifts in my arms, each one carefully wrapped, labeled and tucked under the tree within 5 minutes of walking through the door. One was for Teresa, one for Elise, and the third was for me, though I had no plans of actually opening it. It was just there to make the balance look right. Teresa didn't even say hello before making a comment about how I'd filled out since she saw me last. Elise followed it up by glancing at my boots and saying it was so cute I still wore suede like it was 2016. I didn't reply. I just smiled like I always do when I walk into that house and remember exactly why I left it in the first place. The gift slid under the tree without a word. Teresa's was in soft flannel paper. Elise's was gold and red with a velvet ribbon, shiny enough to catch the light from across the room. That was the Karma box, the empty one with the handwritten tag. It looked like it had a Rolex inside. Dinner came next. Teresa made lasagna this year. She kept offering Elise the corner pieces and calling her skinny girl. At one point, she brought up Elise's recent skincare brand deal, saying it was so nice that real companies are noticing her now. Everyone nodded along. Someone asked Elise how many followers she had now. No one asked me anything. I sat next to the window and passed the garlic bread down the table. When it came time for gifts, Elise stood up and handed Teresa a box the size of a textbook. It was a new phone, one of the newest models. Teresa clapped her hands together like a child and gave Elise a full-body hug, the kind that rocked back and forth. Then Elise looked around, half laughing, and said she hoped her little gift didn't make the rest of us feel bad. I handed Teresa mine, a handmade blanket I'd been working on in the evenings for the last month. She held it up, looked at the stitching for maybe 2 seconds, then folded it and placed it on the floor next to her. She didn't say much. When it was my turn to open something, Teresa handed me a gift bag. Inside was a bath bomb set from a drugstore. I checked the bottom, 3 years expired. There was still a clearance sticker stuck to the back. Then Elise reached for her box, the one I had placed just so under the tree. Everyone leaned forward. The wrapping looked expensive, and no one even pretended not to be curious. She peeled the ribbon, took off the lid, and stared. There was nothing inside but a note. She picked it up and read it. The handwriting was neat, block letters. The message said, "You take everything else anyway." The room froze. Teresa's fork slipped off her plate and hit the tile with a clink. Elise blinked, smiled for a second, then gave this weird half laugh, like she was trying to play it off but didn't quite know how. No one else made a sound. Teresa finally spoke up. She wanted to know if this was supposed to be a joke. Elise tossed the box back onto the table and said I couldn't seriously be upset over a gift, that I'd always been dramatic. I didn't raise my voice. I just said I wanted to give something that matched the effort Elise usually puts in for other people. Then I folded my napkin and stood up. Teresa told me I'd ruined the holiday. Elise went upstairs and slammed a door hard enough to shake a painting off the wall. One of my uncles mumbled something, but no one else moved. I stayed long enough to help clear 2 plates. Then I got my coat, walked to my car, and sat in the driveway for a few minutes. The lights in the window kept blinking like nothing had happened. That night, I got a text from my cousin Ava. It just said, "You finally said it without saying it. Proud of you." 2 days later, a group message from Teresa landed in the family chat. She didn't name me directly, but she said one of her daughters had chosen the path of public humiliation over love, and that it was deeply rooted in jealousy. She ended it by saying Elise was still shaken, and that no one should feel pressured to take sides, but it was clear who had chosen to sow discord. Another cousin replied with a thumbs up emoji. That was it. There was it. The rest of the chat stayed silent. The gift I gave wasn't just a message for Elise. It was for Teresa too. Every year they asked for peace and gave me leftovers. This time I gave them silence in return. No yelling. No argument, just a box, wrapped like every other gift they ever took from me. Only this time, it came with nothing but the truth inside. 2 days after the family group chat blew up, I got a call from my Aunt Lorna. She didn't sound angry, just confused. She asked what actually happened at Christmas because she couldn't make sense of Teresa's message. I told her I'd forward the exact text Teresa sent, no edits. It landed in her inbox a minute later. Teresa's version of events was carefully written. She described it as an ambush, said I brought an empty box as a cruel prank, and called it a calculated act of humiliation against Elise, who had done nothing but shower the family with love. There was no mention of the coat, no mention of the iPad, the thermos, the gift cards, or the countless things that had gone missing over the years. She skipped all of that and painted me as someone who showed up just to cause drama. By the end of the day, a few cousins had liked Teresa's original group chat message. One of them replied saying people shouldn't get worked up over gifts and that Christmas is about family, not presents. Another cousin, Jared, messaged me privately to say he'd always thought something was weird. He remembered seeing his birthday card to me sitting open on Teresa's kitchen counter 3 years ago, with no money inside. He'd assumed I left it there. Now he wasn't so sure. The next morning, I went to pick up some groceries. On the way out of the parking lot, I ran into one of Teresa's friends, Lydia. She pulled me aside and lowered her voice. She told me Elise had been at brunch with some mutual acquaintances the day after Christmas. Apparently, Elise made a loud joke about jealous siblings who think gifts equal love. Then she toasted her mimosa and said some people just never grow up. That story made its way back to me within 48 hours. Later that week, I went to a family lunch at a local cafe. I almost skipped it, but decided to go since I hadn't seen some of the extended relatives in months. We were halfway through eating when one of the cousins leaned over and joked that at least no one's fighting over a coat this time. Then she looked straight at her food like she hadn't just dropped that line. No one laughed. Someone asked for more napkins, and the conversation jumped to something else. That night, I got a message on social media from a name I recognized, Savannah. She used to be close friends with Elise in college. They don't speak anymore. Her message was short. It said, "She's been doing that since college. You're not crazy." I replied with a thumbs up and nothing more. That was when I started putting a folder together on my laptop. I didn't label it anything dramatic. Just gifts. Elise. Inside, I dropped photos I'd taken over the years, screenshots of texts, and receipts. The scarf my company sent me that Elise wore the next week. The iPad box with my name still on the shipping label. The spa gift card Teresa claimed was for everyone but was used at a spa 2 towns over. The same one Elise tagged in a photo the day after my birthday. I added a timestamp screenshot of my boss's message from last spring. He saw Elise using the thermos at a gym across town and thought I'd lent it to her. I didn't blast it to the group or make a big deal. I just had it, just in case. 3 days after the brunch story made its rounds, I finally sent a message in the family group chat. It was short. I gave Elise an empty box to match the effort I've received for the past 20 years. Teresa replied 4 minutes later. Her message was twice as long as mine. She wrote, "This is exactly what jealousy does to a family. It breaks it from the inside." She added a broken heart emoji at the end. Elise didn't respond. Not a word. Just silence in the chat and 2 new posts on her page, one of her laughing on a couch with the caption "Healing Energy Only," and another with the quote, "Some people only love you when you let them win." That same night, I got a text from my older brother Nathan. He's always lived out of state and rarely joins family events. His message said, "I've seen her take your stuff. Finally glad someone said something." I didn't respond right away. This stopped being about gifts a long time ago. The presents were just the pieces people could see. The real damage came from being told, over and over again, that I imagined it, that I was overreacting. That love meant letting things go, and that speaking up was the real problem. For now, I've muted the family group chat. No dramatic exit, no goodbye message, just silence. But I'm not done. the holidays are over. The lights are packed away. But this story's not finished yet. The week after New Year's, our office held its annual Secret Santa exchange. It was delayed this year due to weather, so most of us had already forgotten about it. I didn't mind. I drew the name of a coworker from finance and gave her a handmade desk organizer I'd spent a few weekends building from scratch. Smooth wood finish, stained walnut, customized compartments. She smiled, said it reminded her of something her grandfather used to make, and placed it right on her desk. That was the last normal thing that happened that day. My gift arrived last. A sleek black bag with metallic ribbon, sealed with wax and a sticker that said "To you, from me." It looked high-end. I opened it to find a luxury perfume set, 3 full-size bottles of an exclusive brand I hadn't seen in stores in months. That's because I had bought it myself last year. It vanished before I ever got to use it. I knew right away. One of the bottles was a custom scent I'd mixed at a boutique in Portland. It wasn't sold anywhere else. When I looked closer, I noticed a cream-colored tag tacked into the box's lid, the same tag I'd written last year, barely visible behind a fold in the lining. It was still there, like Elise had never even opened the box properly. I had written it a year ago. "Treat yourself, future you deserves it." The tag was slightly torn on the edge where I'd taped it down the first time. I took out my phone and took photos of everything: box tag, lining, bottles. And then I added the photos to the folder on my laptop, the one labeled Gifts. Elise. I didn't say anything at the office. I just thanked the organizer and moved on. Later that day, during a break, one of my coworkers leaned over and asked if I liked the perfume. She said Elise had casually handed it to her a few weeks ago, calling it leftover product from some giveaway bundle she didn't remember ordering. That it wasn't really her scent. No big deal. Just a hand-me-down giveaway. That night, I pulled up Elise's social media archives. I scrolled through the videos from months ago, low-quality boomerangs of coffee, candles, beige outfits. In one clip, sitting behind a mug of matcha on her kitchen counter, was the exact black box with my custom label barely visible. She never posted about the product directly, probably because it wasn't part of an actual sponsorship. I screenshotted the clip and saved it. The last piece of confirmation was the scent itself. I still had the boutique's email with the invoice from when I ordered it. The receipt had the name of the scent written out in the custom request field. I forwarded the photo evidence, receipt, and screenshots to Nathan. His reply came back within a minute: "She's going to combust when this finally catches up." The next day, a family calendar invite landed in my inbox. It was from Teresa, subject line, Elise's birthday brunch. The venue? A country club just outside of town. The same one I'd once booked for my own birthday 4 years ago, before Teresa canceled it due to budget concerns. No explanation. No apology. I ended up eating takeout with 2 friends in my apartment that year. I clicked decline on the calendar invite and went about my day. The next morning, Teresa sent me a long email. The first paragraph was about disappointment. The second was about family unity. The third included a note that Elise had a gift registry this year, something no one in the family had ever done before. Teresa closed the email by saying your attendance isn't required, but your participation is expected. The gift registry included things like designer candles, a limited edition makeup fridge, a silk robe, and a bag I recognized from Elise's vision board last fall. I didn't choose any of those. Instead, I found a knockoff version of the designer handbag on a resale site for $28. It looked convincing from a distance, but the stitching was slightly off, and the interior tag was misspelled. I tucked a handwritten note inside the zipper: "You won't need the real one. You'll just borrow mine anyway." I dropped it off at Teresa's house the night before the brunch. No invitation inside. No long explanation. Just a short greeting and the bag left at the front table. Teresa tried to pull me into a conversation, said Elise was really trying and that maybe this year could be different. I told her I had other plans and left. By evening, Elise posted a story. She was holding the bag up to the camera, fake smiling, and the caption read, "It's the thought that counts, even if the thought is petty." The comments were mostly emojis, a few friends laughing, one saying iconic. No one knew the full story, but it didn't matter. This wasn't about being petty. This was about accuracy. Elise gave away a perfume that wasn't hers. Teresa planned a brunch for her at a place I was once told was too expensive, and I gave them something that finally matched the years of swapped names on tags and swapped roles in our family. It looked real, but it wasn't. Just like everything else they ever handed me. Teresa asked if I could come over on Saturday to help clean out the garage. She framed it as bonding time and promised lunch afterward. I agreed, but only for 2 hours, no extensions, no last-minute add-ons. I showed up with gloves, a dust mask, and a timer running on my phone. The garage looked like it hadn't been touched in a decade. Stacks of storage bins, boxes from stores that don't exist anymore, and random furniture parts were shoved against the walls. Teresa handed me a marker and a roll of trash bags. We started with the boxes labeled holiday storage and gift overflow. One of the first bins we opened had wrapping paper stuck to the inside. Underneath were 3 unopened boxes, each with tags that had my name written on them. One was from my aunt, 2 years ago. Another had a Christmas card tucked underneath the ribbon from a former coworker, still sealed. Teresa looked down, made a face, and said she must have mixed them up during the holiday rush. Then she moved on to the next pile without giving me a chance to ask anything. I opened the box from the coworker. Inside was a set of fancy soaps I remembered hearing her talk about. I never received them. They just vanished. The second box held a knitted blanket with my initials embroidered in the corner. The third was heavier, a leather-bound journal, custom-made, the kind my best friend used to send me every year. 3 years ago, she mailed one and I never received it. Teresa had told me it must have been lost in the mail. The journal was here, still wrapped in tissue paper. While I held it, Teresa's phone buzzed on the nearby shelf. She glanced at the screen, and I saw Elise's name pop up. The message preview said, "Don't let her take anything I want." Teresa didn't say anything, just clicked her phone off and turned back toward the next bin. A few seconds later, under her breath, she muttered, "She gets so territorial." She didn't realize I'd heard her until she looked up and paused. She gave a tight smile and changed the subject to how heavy the next box looked. I didn't ask for clarification. We kept sorting, though the energy in the room shifted. For the first time in years, Teresa didn't seem eager to defend Elise. She didn't outright criticize her, but the tone was different, quieter, more tired. Still, every time I found something that was clearly mine, she acted like it was a casual oversight. At the bottom of another bin, I found a velvet box I recognized immediately. My late grandmother's earrings. Teresa had once said they were lost after a plumbing leak. Elise wore earrings that looked just like them at a family dinner last year, said they were vintage replicas. These weren't replicas. These were the originals. I didn't say a word. I slipped them into my coat pocket and moved on to the next bin. That night, I started a spreadsheet called Stolen, Misplaced, or Redirected. I listed each item with dates, senders, how it vanished, and where I found it. I added photos for reference. The journal. The soaps. The earrings. The old birthday scarf. The perfume. I sent a copy to a friend of mine who works as a therapist, not for advice, just to have another set of eyes on it. She looked it over and wrote back, "This isn't pettiness. It's a pattern of erasure." We kept digging through boxes. One of them held an old mirror I bought for my first apartment. I'd asked Teresa to hold on to it when I moved temporarily for work. A year later, she said it had cracked in storage. But the mirror in front of me was perfectly fine, not even a scratch. Still wrapped in the original moving blanket I'd packed it in. Elise pulled into the driveway halfway through the cleanout. She breezed into the garage in boots with no socks and a cashmere sweater, pretending to help. She immediately reached for the journal in my pile, the one from my best friend. She said she thought it was hers, that it looked like one she used in college. I didn't let go. I said it was addressed to me, it had my name on it, and this time I was keeping it. She rolled her eyes, called it just a notebook, and walked off to poke through another box marked kitchen. Teresa didn't say anything. That was the moment it clicked, how many things weren't just lost, but taken. Quietly, piece by piece, over years. And every time I asked, I was told I was making a big deal out of nothing. Not anymore. Megan, a neighbor I hadn't spoken to in years, reached out through a mutual connection and invited me to a small women's circle her block hosts every month. It wasn't something I normally attended, but she added a note at the end saying, "Bring something personal if you can. Doesn't have to be deep, just real." I didn't plan to go at first, but the day of the meeting, I walked into my office, looked at the open spreadsheet of stolen or redirected items, and packed a small box. Inside were printed copies of each photo I'd collected over the years, items I was supposed to receive but didn't. I labeled the box things I was supposed to receive. The items ranged from gift cards to jewelry to the custom perfume. I didn't expect anyone to understand the full weight of it, but I brought it anyway. The women's circle met in someone's living room. Pillows on the floor, soft music, warm lighting. About a dozen women sat in a loose circle with mugs of tea and notepads. Megan gave me a small nod and gestured for me to sit. When it was my turn, I opened the box and read a few entries off the list. Nothing dramatic, just facts. Who it was from, when it was meant for me, and when I found it in Elise's possession. By the third item, the room was completely quiet. A few women wiped their eyes. One woman reached for a pen and wrote something down in her journal. When I finished, one of the older women leaned forward and said, "You were never asking for too much. Just enough." After the meeting, Megan introduced me to her aunt, who had been sitting quietly near the back. Her name was Diane. As soon as Megan mentioned my last name, Diane blinked and asked, "You're Elise's sister?" I nodded. She let out a soft sigh and said, "That explains a lot." Turns out, Diane had coordinated an internship program Elise had done during college. She didn't give specifics, but she asked if I had ever worked on a design project Elise turned in her junior year. That night, I opened my old college email account. It took about an hour, but I found a folder labeled Final Project, Brand Identity Mockup. Inside were drafts, backup files, and a full presentation with my name as the primary author. I remembered now Elise had asked for help brainstorming a campaign idea and borrowed my laptop to tweak the formatting. The project she submitted had my layout, my fonts, my concept. I didn't message Elise. I found the old professor's department email through the university's faculty archive and forwarded the files with a short note. This project was submitted under someone else's name. These files show the original author. No action needed, just clarity. That same week, Teresa sent out another family update, this time sharing a photo of Elise's handwritten donation wish list. It had a heading about a kindness initiative and was filled with vague categories like self-care items, household organization, and seasonal refreshers. The listed examples included designer slippers, wireless earbuds, a blanket from a luxury home goods site, and limited edition candles from a subscription box. It was written in Elise's handwriting but was distributed through Teresa, who framed it as a sweet way Elise is giving back. 2 days later, my neighbor Jeff knocked on my door with a small box. He looked confused and held it out, saying, "This was dropped off at our place by mistake. It's for Elise, but it says your address on the return label." The front had Elise's influencer alias, but the shipping return address was mine. I checked my side patio after he left. 3 unopened packages sat near the wall, all addressed to Elise's brand identity, but with my apartment number. One was from a skincare line I hadn't even heard of. Another was a gourmet snack box. The third had clothing from a fitness apparel brand. I emailed the customer support contacts listed on each packing slip and explained the packages were delivered to my home without permission. And one of them replied that this wasn't the first time Elise's orders had involved a mismatch of addresses and names. They asked if I would return the package, and I agreed. The next day, Teresa left me a voicemail. Her voice was tight, controlled. She said I had gone too far and that Elise was very hurt and felt bullied. I didn't call back. I replied with a single text, "She's not being bullied. She's finally facing consequences. There's a difference." I followed up with my apartment manager and requested a written note in my file restricting any package deliveries using my address under non-resident names. She confirmed it would be added to their system. That night, I packed a box. This one was different. It wasn't empty, and it wasn't symbolic. It contained a stack of printed evidence, a timeline, photos, email confirmations, and a letter. I printed a label and stuck it on. It wasn't addressed to Elise, Teresa, or anyone in my family. It was going somewhere Elise never expected. I mailed the box on a Tuesday morning. Tracked, insured, signature required. It wasn't addressed to Elise. It wasn't addressed to Teresa. It went to one of Elise's recent brand sponsors, a mid-size wellness company that had partnered with her for a holiday giveaway. Inside, I included screenshots of shipping slips, photos of products delivered to my address, and email replies from brand reps confused about the mismatched delivery info. I added a note at the top: "This is not revenge. This is accountability. I am not involved in your sponsorships, but my name and address have been used without permission." The package arrived 2 days later. A week after that, Teresa left a voicemail that started with a sigh and ended with, "You've completely ruined Elise's relationship with that company." Elise had apparently received a cease and desist letter, been dropped from the campaign, and was, according to Teresa, blaming everyone but herself. The next day, Elise deleted all branded posts from that company from her social media profile and posted a vague quote about resilience through betrayal. That Friday, Teresa came to my workplace unannounced. She made it to the front lobby before the receptionist called me. I didn't go out to see her. Security asked her to leave after she insisted I was trying to sabotage her other daughter's life. She left behind a folded note that simply said, "Is this who you are now?" That night, I sent Teresa an email. No accusations, no shouting, just a straightforward outline of events, items redirected, packages misused, boundaries crossed. I ended it with one sentence: "You are no longer entitled to access my life, or the things in it." I blocked her number after the message sent. No one from the family followed up. No texts, no calls, no cousin group chat reaction. The silence didn't feel like a loss. It felt like a locked door, one I didn't need to knock on anymore. That weekend, I pulled out the leather journal I'd found in the garage, the one Elise had tried to claim as hers. I hadn't opened it in years. Inside the front pocket was a folded note from my best friend. The letter read, "You matter more than you think. Keep this close." I added that page to the front of the gifts, Elise folder, before closing the spreadsheet permanently. There was nothing else I needed to collect. Megan texted me a few days later. The neighborhood group had decided to organize a local donation drive for spring. She asked if I wanted to co-lead. I said yes. I started by going through everything Elise had discarded or re-gifted: half-used skincare sets, unopened journals, duplicated candles, and scarves that still had tags on them. I kept the things that mattered and donated the rest. One afternoon, I opened the mailbox to find a handwritten card from Teresa. The handwriting was familiar, the paper expensive. The first line read, "You've always been difficult." I stopped there. I dropped the card in the kitchen trash without reading the rest. A week later, Elise posted an announcement on her profile: "Family reconciliation dinner this Friday. Everyone welcome." My name was tagged. I hadn't been asked. I didn't respond. The event got canceled after only 3 people RSVP'd. The post was deleted by the next day. When my birthday came, I hosted my own gathering. 5 close friends. No big decorations, just dinner, music, and a few quiet laughs. I gave each friend something small and personalized, things I used to wish I'd receive: a monogrammed mug, a photo frame, a lavender candle I hand-poured the week before. Each item came with a tag: "Thank you for choosing me." At the end of the night, I opened one last gift, one I had wrapped for myself. It was a small box, almost identical to the one I'd given Elise months ago. But this one wasn't empty. Inside was a photo of me at age 7, holding a pink camera with both hands and smiling at the lens. The note tucked beneath it said, "She deserved more. So do I." According to Teresa, Elise is taking a step back from things for now and reassessing what she wants to do next. I didn't ask for more. I didn't check Elise's page. I didn't reply. The garage clean-out ended quietly. 3 bags of items, gifts meant for me, then redirected or forgotten, went to a local donation center. I handed them over at the loading dock, signed the receipt, and walked away. One last box remained on my shelf. Smooth, simple, no ribbon. The label said, "Closure." I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I shelved it between my journals, with the folded letter tucked behind it. For once, the best gift I had wasn't taken, borrowed, or swapped. It was chosen by me, for me, and that made all the difference.